In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve problems based on percents. When we need to figure out what a sales price would be, or tax, or a discount, we can use our knowledge of percents to help us figure those out. So I'm going to walk you through some of the problems that we did in class so that you have more examples that you can go back and review from. So the first part here, remember, we need to make sure we mark our text. It says determine the value for each using your knowledge of percents, then round your answer to the nearest tenth if necessary. So the first one says, what is 25% of 60? Now remember, there's multiple ways to solve one problem. So we can look at this a couple of ways. 25%, I know that equals 1/4 of the whole thing. Okay? So one thing that I could do is that I could take 60 and divide that by 4. And I know 60 divided by 4 equals 15. So 25% of 60 would also have to equal 15. So that's one way to solve that problem. Another way to solve that problem is by listing partial percents. So 10% of 60 would equal 6. Another 10% would equal 6. And then I have 5 more percent. Now remember, 5% is half of 10%. So half of 6 would equal 3. So if I add this again, 12 plus 3 equals 15. So that is one way to solve that problem. So there's two ways right there. Another way. So here's the third method that we've talked about. So if we have 25 over 100, because 25%, remember, percent means out of 100, 25 over 100 is going to equal something over 60, because it's the 25% that's matched up with the missing piece, right? Because we're looking for what is 25% of 60. So, I have to ask myself, again, how do I go from hundredths to 60ths? That's a little hard to do, but I can simplify 25 hundredths. 25 hundredths equals, if I simplify this, if I simplify it by 25, it would equal 1/4. So if I divide by 25, so divide by 25 here, divide by 25 here, that would equal 1/4 as an equivalent fraction. Okay, so now I have 1/4 is equal to something over 60, and I know that to go from fourths to 60ths, I have to multiply by 15, and then to go from 1 to my missing piece, I would have to multiply by 15. So again, 25%, 15 50ths, I need to figure out what that equals out of 100. You go from 50ths to hundredths, I know I have to multiply by 2. So what I did to the denominator, I'm going to have to do to the numerator. So again, I'm going to have to multiply by 2. And 15 is what percent of 50? Well, we just proved that it is 30% of 50. If we move on to the next problem, it's going to be very similar to problem B, but it is just a tiny bit different. So it says 45 is what percent of 60? So again, now you're comparing 45 to 60, and you want to see what that equals as a percentage. So 45 is what percent of 60? And I know I can write it out of 100 because percent means out of 100. So 45/60ths, that I cannot transfer or convert what 60 to 100 is very easily. But I can simplify. So if I look at those two numbers, I know they're both divisible by 5 because they both end in a 5, or one ends in a 5 and one ends in a 0. If I look more closely, I know that they're both divisible by 15. So if I divide them both by 15, 45 divided by 15 equals 3, and 60 divided by 15 equals 4. So I'm going to rewrite my equation now as 3/4 is equal to something over 100. So it equals something over 100. And now I can convert fourths to hundredths. To convert fourths to hundredths, I would have to multiply by 25. Multiply by 25. And 3 multiplied by 25 would be 75%. So 45 is 75% of 60. All right. Now if we look at D, again, I'm giving you all these different methods so that you can choose the one that works the best for the situation. So you want to be most efficient as possible. Okay? So if we look at D, it says what number is 20% of 80? So if we want to write an equation, that's fine. So 20% of 80. So what number is 20% of 80? But here we are going to have to do some converting because it's not clear how to convert from 80 to 100. But if you use a different method, if you think about what 10% of 80 is, I know 10% of 80 is 8. And 20 has two 10% in it. So I'm going to have 2 8s, and 20% is going to equal 16. So in calculating percents, just like in many other mathematical tasks, it's all about finding the most efficient method based on the... So as problem solvers, that's what we have to do, find that most efficient method. Alright, thanks for watching. Good luck. Make sure to ask questions if you have them.